Thanks very much. Thanks for the invitation to be here. Man in suit talking about cultural advisory work. That sounds nice and interesting, bodes well. And also, as we've just heard from Katie, she's covered everything I was going to talk about really well and very interesting. I'm part of the small team that is putting together the bid that was talked about earlier on. And there's not much, actually, at this stage to show you, so which is why there's going to be some decorative slides that accompany me for the next 6 minutes here. So decoration rather than illumination, and I hope you enjoy. I was part of the team that put together the Inverness Highland bid about 10 years ago to be European Capital of Culture. It was the only Scottish bid that went forward, and we were astonished that Dundee didn't go forward at that stage, because we felt that they would wipe the floor with anybody. Now, 10 years down the line, even more so, that is the case. One of the things that the bidding process, it can be very dull, it can be very prosaic exercise and very bureaucratic. And trying to inject some life into it is not particularly easy. One of the things at the moment on the Hannah McClure Centre, the Vince Rattray exhibition, most of you have probably been up to see that, and there's a wee quote from Michael Mara who says that Vince once said this to him and more. And it struck me that one of the purposes in going for the designation of City of Culture has to be to take the reveal part out of this. It has to be to reveal the city to itself, to reveal the city to others. And if it doesn't do that, if you individually in this room are not surprised by what happens during the whole process leading up to 2017 and beyond, if the folk out there aren't surprised, excited and shocked in some ways by what is happening on their own doorstep and what can happen, then actually there's no point in going forward. And one of the reasons for choosing these particular images just now, and they are, as you'll see, quite random, but there's a book, if you go into the McManus Gallery just now, there's a big coffee table book that's just been produced for the Your Paintings BBC online, which shows all the public paintings in the UK. The one in the McManus has 3,000 paintings held in Dundee public collections, 3,000, of which at any one time only 20% are on show. And that struck me as a particularly apt metaphor for the creativity, the ideas and the imagination that exist in any city, but particularly in this city. At any one time, the kind of iceberg of creativity is only showing probably 10 to 20% of activity. Do you actually know what is happening next door to you, what the person next door is doing in a completely different discipline? You know some of the stuff, and you've got your fingers on the pulse. There are plenty of people out there that will be amazed and excited when they find out what is actually happening and what could happen there. So it's that process of revelation, it has to be there, and this is why this is a convenient metaphor for me to run through this. One of the conversations I had last week, somebody said three very simple words have probably been up there already. When they were describing the sector in Dundee, they said, it is strong, but it's fragile. And that for me was a perfect summary. Again, it's not just Dundee that has a strong but fragile creative or cultural sector. For me, it's about folk in the sector over the next few years deciding, well, what is it that what are your strengths? We kind of know what the strengths are. There's built infrastructure and all the rest of it. What do you want the strength to be? For me, I think you have to look at attitude. Do we want this city to be the city that welcomes ideas and imagination and creativity, that goes out there and folk actually think we are welcome? If I have an idea, it's going to be nurtured, it's going to be cared for, it's going to be supported. Is that what we want our strength to be? The fragility, we kind of all know about the day-to-day fragilities, about the capacity of what we do, about the scale of our operation, about access to funding. But again, what are the real fragilities that we should be looking at during this process? Is it about confidence and belief in what we are doing and what we have? Is it about convincing others who are working in this sector or sectors alongside us, the public sector, the academic sector? Is it about getting them to be confident and believe in what is happening and to understand what is happening in the creative sector? Is that the fragility that we actually want to address, rather than the more kind of obvious ones of infrastructure, which will sort themselves out? Welcome to my world. These are the sort of documents that I have to read and translate. Mapping exercises, counting what counts. Sorry, a lot of these were written by you. Sorry, Gillian. and very good they are too. And that's fine. And part of this whole exercise is about people like me coming in and reading these and translating them. These are the more interesting ones. For me, this is the Bible. Anybody that doesn't have Time Tram Dundee in this room, go out and buy it immediately. Actually, I got the last copy on Waterstones the other day. The History of Dundee, which is, as a Dundonian, I never heard this. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, and the history of music there over the last 40 years. These are the kind of documents that should be inspiring the bid here. Earlier on, there was a wee quote there that said 34 years. The reason for that is that I stay up north, but my mum stays out the Arbroath Road, and when I'm down here, I stay with her. I was telling her about the bid. She says, well, what are you involved for? You've not lived in the city for 34 years. I know you're thinking he left when he was 4. And you know, she's absolutely right. Of course, it's not about folk like me in suits coming in and doing stuff. It has to be exactly about what Katie was saying. It has to be about engaging folk. Could this be the first ever annual year-long celebration that is crowdsourced? The programme is crowdsourced. There is no artistic director. It comes from not just folk in this room, but the primacy of the idea. You put a call out for ideas, and it doesn't matter if it's a wee girl in Fintry or the director of the DCA that comes forward. You ignore that. It's the idea that counts. If it's a good idea, it runs with it. That would excite me. I think that would excite folk in this room, hopefully, and it would excite people who want to come along here. Prose and poetry was a wee thing that came up there, and just in kind of concluding here. The job that I have to do and others who are coordinating the bid is really to deal in the prose. We kind of speak in prose, but you deliver in poetry, and we have to make sure that that is the essence. We don't lose sight of that. When you see the things that come out of the bid and are written about it, please don't drop your head. That some of it has to be written in that prose, but it's so that you can deliver the poetry. And remember, from Vince Rattray, that what we are trying to do, and I think what we should all try to do, is to reveal the city, reveal its creativity to ourselves and to others. Thank you very much.